Thank you, Madam Chair and Ranking Member Scott. Secretary DeVos, one of your senior advisors is Mr. Robert Eitel. I believe his proper title is Senior Counselor to the Secretary. Mr. Eitel used to work for a company called Bridgepoint Education, a for-profit education services company. Mr. Eitel took an unpaid leave of absence from Bridgeport from February 13th, 2017 to April 5th, 2017 to work for the Department of Education. In effect, during that 2-month stretch of time, he was employed by both Bridgepoint and the department at the same time. Two issues of concern to Bridgepoint are the Gainful Employment Rule and the Borrower Defense Rule, both of which protect students. I'd like to talk about the Gainful Employment, or GE, rule for a moment. You must be aware that because of his prior employment with Bridgepoint, and to avoid any conflict of interest, Mr. Eitel told Congress that he had recused himself from all matters related to the Gainful Employment Rule. I happen to have two documents of interest with me, Secretary. First, a record of a May 17th, 2017 call on Mr. Eitel's calendar titled, quote-unquote, Call with EOP, that's the Executive Office of the President, on BD and GE rulemakings. And that was from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. that day. I also have a record of a June 13th, 2017 email sent from Mr. Eitel to administration officials attaching a quote-unquote draft backgrounder and an instruction within the email to remove the quote-unquote GE insert when sending it to others. Secretary DeVos, given Mr. Eitel's statement to Congress about recusing himself from all matters involving the GE rule, or the Gainful Employment Rule, and these documents, which I just showed in my hands, which contradict his testimony, are you as concerned as I am that he was not completely candid with Congress?
Congressman, thank you for that question. All of my team is very responsible to and responsive to the requirements and the expectations of their ethics agreements, and I'm very confident of their following those appropriately and according to all of the rules set forth therein.
So if he says that he's recusing himself from all discussions regarding the GE rule, the Gainful Employment Rule, but he participates in discussions about that same rule, do you not see that there's a conflict of interest there?
Sir, he and all of our team that have any issues that would suggest conflict have continued to take all of the expectations and their requirements very seriously, and I have every confidence of that.
Okay, so you have every confidence that he has taken his particular promise not to involve himself in GE matters, despite the fact that he actually involved himself in GE matters. Is that correct?
As I've said, all of my team takes their requests and the requirements regarding ethics very seriously.
Thank you. I want to turn to Ms. Diane Jones, the senior department official responsible for making the recommendation that determines whether ACICS is reinstated as a legitimate accreditor. Let me remind everyone that ACICS accredited ITT Tech and Corinthian, two of the most fraudulent institutions in recent history. Madam Secretary, are you aware that Ms. Jones was the president of the American Academy for Liberal Education, which is an accrediting agency?
Sir, what I'm aware of is that the court has ordered us to take a new look at the ACICS situation in case, and we are doing so. And since it is in the middle of consideration and litigation, I can't discuss that matter further.
Are you aware that AALE lost its recognition as an accrediting agency by the department despite Ms. Jones's opposition?
I am.
Are you aware this prior rule, that is with the AALE, was not disclosed in Ms. Jones's financial disclosure paperwork?
Sir, again, I have stated before and I'll state again that all of my team takes their responsibilities very seriously and takes their ethics agreements very seriously, and they continue to operate within them and I'm confident of that.
Madam Secretary, I'm just asking you a yes or no question. Are you aware this prior role was not disclosed in Ms. Jones's financial disclosure paperwork?
I refer again to the fact that all of my team takes their responsibilities seriously. They are all adults, and they are all bound to their ethics agreements and follow them carefully.
One last question. Given everything we've discussed today about Mr. Itel and Ms. Jones, could you please define the term conflict of interest for this committee as you understand it?
All of our team understands if they have either a perceived or real conflict, and all of their agreements reflect that. They take those responsibilities seriously and will continue to do so.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary.